What's going on, everybody? JT here, and I am with Zachary Martinez, the CEO of TruYou. TruYou is your portal for love in the metaverse, and their IDO is happening right now on Algorand using the Algo Fund Launchpad. Excited to have this conversation, so welcome to the show, Zach.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time for Algorand in general, but clearly an exciting time for TruYou. So how about we just start this off with a very general question of what is TruYou?
Sure. So TruYou is a venture into incentivizing connection. Lots of dating apps, over the last 7 to 10 years, they haven't really progressed a whole lot. It's kind of been the same exact stagnant process of swiping on every single user, having a generalized interaction, and then there's no real guarantee that you're either interacting with the person that you want to interact with or that you're ever even going to have an in-person connection with that person. TruYou aims to solve that. So we've partnered with Vendible to secure identity information on the blockchain. So through their wallet application, a user can submit their own personal identity information, and then TruYou gains access to certain portions of that information that's allotted by the user in order to verify that user's identity, so that we can say, hey, we have catfish proof prevention. We know exactly who this person is, and we know that the account that they've created is valid. Outside of that, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that's one of the, you kind of already answered one of the questions I had on the sheet, a couple questions down, which was basically, how do you prevent, because I saw on the website that there was a catfish prevention, and, I was very curious on how that works because, a lot of us that have used dating apps before are well aware that it's a serious problem. And it's not just on dating apps, it's anywhere on social media, whether it be YouTube or Twitter. It's very rare not interacting with a bot. So I'd love to leave that to you to answer the question on how does this cat-proof technology work, and in what ways will this partnership kind of set TruYou apart from other dating apps that don't have this technology?
For sure. So from my understanding, working with Vendible, they use their partner on Fido to verify users' credential information based on their driver's license or passport, or basically any sort of credentialing information that you want to submit. Then once they're verified, that's when we would be interested in kind of gaining that user's information, just so that we can use that verification to further promote the fact that, hey, this user has been actually accurately verified.
And now, do you see that as being any sort of maybe like a hurdle to entry for some people that might not, might be interested in what the app has to offer, but might not want to relinquish some of that information that they don't have to give up on other apps?
Of course. And a user is not required by any means to verify their identity on their account. It's simply a feature that you can utilize in order to further improve your experience within the application.
Makes sense. Yeah, I like that, having the optionality. So at least as a user, from a user standpoint, I could at least be assured, I don't know if it's going to be like a verification badge or something like that, but I could at least be sure that the person I'm talking to, if I wish, if I want to talk to an unverified user, that's fine too. I could take that chance, but I love that optionality. So, I want to ask, which aside from this catfish prevention tool, what will separate TruYou from other dating apps such as Tinder or the like?
Yeah, it comes down to incentivization. So where a lot of apps tend to fail, in my opinion, is that they require strictly effort. So money is a measure of effort in the world because you get paid for your time. And so a user is basically spending their time, not only their time on the platform in terms of physical time, but in time that you've already earned through your monetary earnings. And they're not really giving a whole lot back to the user. They're hoping that the platform in itself kind of lends some value to the user through the users that are on the platform. So we kind of circumvent that altogether. We use the trust token through our platform in order to perform all basic operations. So to swipe on a user, you have to use the trust token. To send gifts to a user, you have to use the trust token. To pretty much do anything on the platform, you have to use the trust token. And although this sounds like a kind of like a complexity that may be a bit difficult for people to kind of become accustomed to, in reality, we've simplified the process to be almost identical to any other app implementation on the App Store. So ideally, we make it into a purchasable thing through the Google Play or Apple Store so that a user can just simply purchase that. We automatically transmit that into Trust, and we put that into their account for them. So they don't have to worry about all the crypto integrations as well.
That's fantastic. So Trust token is the TruYou token, and this is the token that is now available via IDO on the Algo Fund Launchpad, correct?
Absolutely correct.
And I, this video might be out, hours from now from this conversation, but that's taking place as of an hour ago, correct? Is there a timeline on when the IDO ends?
Yeah, so the IDO official ending is on the 4th, from what I understand. We just started, like you said, about an hour ago, and we've already secured over 1,500 tickets to the IDO.
That's fantastic. And how many tickets is there, like a maximum size for the IDO before it's capped, or is it just a timeline?
I think so the way that it's set up, it basically, based on the quantity of tickets that are purchased for the sale, they have a certain allotment of Trust that a user can purchase per ticket. So it kind of comes down to, now the per ticket cost is technically 1,700 algo, but that per ticket cost goes down as users invest and purchase tickets.
Interesting. Awesome. So they're investing in the ticket, not the token itself.
It's the same thing, exactly. You purchase the ticket, and through the ticket, you can purchase the token.
The rights to the token. Awesome. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about the Trust token a little bit. I know you just mentioned it somewhat, the swiping and all the different functionalities, but if we could do a more deep dive on the utility of the token, I'd love that.
Yeah, of course. So the basic identity of the Trust token is in its name, Trust. So it acts as intra-platform trust. So whereas the mindless swiping action that's typically attributed to common dating apps, you just kind of swipe left and right, you don't really care about who you're swiping on. You really interact with the people that swipe back on you. And so with our platform, it kind of introduces deliberate matching, which is where, since you're attributing a value to every single swipe, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to every single person that you're swiping on. And outside of this, our platform in itself is developed in order to adapt based on how a user swipes on other users, so that we can continuously provide higher compatibility matches to an individual, so that there is a value in making that swipe. Why would you want to make that swipe? Well, because the platform in itself is adapting to your selections, and the more you swipe, the higher the probability of you finding the match of your dreams.
That makes sense. So if I understand it correctly, so as you said, you use a little bit of this Trust token to swipe on a match or a potential match, but does it cost anything to swipe left, so to speak, and say no, that I don't want to match with this person? So do you have essentially maybe unlimited no's? If that question makes sense?
Yeah. So there's a cost attributed to both a left swipe and a right swipe.
Okay.
The left swipe cost is less than the right swipe cost, because technically you are saying, I trust this person more, if you're saying, I want to match with this person. And so you are spending more trust in order to match with that person. This is also incredibly variable. We can change the value, and we can change the quantity at will.
Fantastic. So, I mean, in a crazy scenario world where the token price goes through the roof, I can envision a day where maybe you're reducing that cost, so that way it's reasonable for people to be swiping left and right and not breaking the bank while they're doing so. So that's fantastic. And the app itself, that's going to be an app available on phones, right? In the Apple Store, Google Play Store, and what have you. Is there a timeline on the release for this app?
Absolutely. We actually just released our MVP to the Google Play Store a few days ago. And we sent out email invites for initial testers of our MVP this morning. So we're hoping to see a lot more in-app screen pics being shared to Twitter and Discord here in the coming days.
Fantastic. And if people wanted to take part in the testing of this app, how would they do so?
Yeah, you can go to the TruYou.io website, and we have a waiting list on the website main page. If you join that waiting list, I will send you an invite, and if you have an Android phone, you can take part.
Fantastic. So one of my questions was going to be essentially, what does a dating app need a blockchain for? But we've kind of already dove into that. So I'll do the second part of that question, which is essentially, why did TruYou decide to build on Algorand of all chains? Because there's a lot of L1s out there, especially some that have, maybe an easier time to launch with maybe a higher market cap, or maybe more liquidity, or what have you. So why did you land on the Algorand blockchain?
Yeah. I mean, if we break down the list of chains that have never ever had an issue and have remained consistent since the beginning of their implementation, Algorand really stands alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're talking about that, then it's an incredibly simple decision for us. Ideally, we would want to expand out to, let's say, Solana and Matic and be addressable and usable on all of these L1s, especially on Ethereum, given it's the largest. But we had to start somewhere, and the strongest chain that we could possibly find was Algorand for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, I like that answer because in reality, of course, I'm a very big Algorand bull. A lot of people that watch this channel know that, but it is going to be a multi-chain world. So from a business perspective, I mean, ideally, you would want to branch out to other ecosystems as well, just because you don't want to put a cap on the growth that an application could have. I want to ask, the website talks about premium in-app staking. Could you illuminate us on how the staking works within the TruYou app?
Yeah, we've simplified it quite a bit to where it's really just a button press. So if you have trust in your wallet and you're using the TruYou application, you can go to the premium panel selection of our application. You input a value into the staking field, and based on the quantity of tokens that you have staked, your swiping discount is applied. So this is where it gets incredibly interesting, because if you stake 50,000 trust tokens within the TruYou application, there is no trust cost for swiping. The same thing happens for 25,000 trust. Your cost is split in half, 50%. And we're working on ways to integrate this throughout the platform so that it's kind of a multifaceted benefit. But the idea in itself is that staking in-app provides you a discount in-app, and then you also earn interest on the amount that you have staked, which is a daily dispersal, so that you can still use the application with the amount that you have staked, so that it's not just kind of locked away forever and you never get to touch it.
Fantastic. So TruYou's currently got the IDO underway. We've got everything we just mentioned currently, but I want to look at maybe 6-12 months into the future. What does the roadmap have in store for TruYou that's not currently available yet? So what else, of course, the app's going to be coming out eventually, so that's a big one. But what in the roadmap is there to be excited about after that?
Oh man, there's the numerous amount of implementations that we have already planned on building for this application is huge. One we've already released to Monty is the mirror. It's just a general way to meet new people, which is, we've kind of been working on ways to integrate human interaction in an exciting way that's not necessarily used by everybody else. So the mirror, as a feature, allows any user to interact with any other random user on the platform without knowing really who you're going to interact with, similar to OPUL, where you're assigned a time. You go onto the application at that time, you're paired with another random user, you interact with that user within a certain quantity of time, and if you don't, then you're automatically re-rolled to interact with another new user on the platform. But this being just kind of the initial spark to say, I'm interacting with a new person, maybe I like this person, and then based on that interaction, you can add that person to your My Matches section of the application.
Is there anything else that we haven't discussed about TruYou that you want to bring attention to my audience? I know, like I said, I know the IDO is going on right now, so that's kind of probably the main focus. And then from there, once the IDO closes in about a week, you said on the 4th, from there, the next focus will likely be on launching the app. But is there anything that we haven't discussed yet that you want to make sure that my audience is aware of?
For sure. So with the launch of our application post-IDO, it's going to be incredibly important for users to become familiar with our tokenomics, especially if they want to interact with our application, because a lot of things are going to be changing. We're going to be introducing a new feature that kind of rounds everything out. Currently, the way that the application is set up, a user spends trust in order to swipe. We are looking to implement a feature set where you can pair your friends or other users on the platform with other users in order to earn trust within the platform. So kind of a way to, you can continuously earn trust and then you can spend trust in order to interact with the platform, so that there's two benefits. You can earn it and then you can spend it.
How would that pairing work? So essentially, would it be like, in a way I could use the app to like set a friend up on a date or something like that, or maybe with a potential match? How would that work?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. So, well, I guess it's a little more complicated if you get into our behavioral matching algorithms. But the simplified version of it basically is that as the platform becomes more accustomed to the actions of a user, and we can glean a personality type from that user, which we're kind of working on a specific interval of time that we are requiring in order to kind of build that initial database. But with this feature set, generally, a user is going to be able to see that personality type of another user, and then you're going to be able to see common personality types and, let's say, Myers-Briggs type indicator types on top of Big Five and Hexaco types that work best with this user, so that you have the highest potential of actually matching that user with another user that has, a potential of actually wanting to be with that other user.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't want to just be matching random people up with people that have no interest with each other. Yeah. So this has actually been really interesting, but I want to make sure that my audience is aware because there's a small timeline on the IDO. So I want to make sure my audience is aware on where they can go to learn more, and then where they can go to participate in the IDO. So if you know the websites offhand, if you want to just announce those to my audience, then I'll make sure that I put them in the description below for anybody that might forget or miss the part and wants to go in the description and click.
Of course, algofund.co. If you go there and you go down the hamburger menu and you click Go to App, you're going to be able to find our IDO. It's currently the only one that's running, the first one on the entirety of the Algorand chain.
Yep, that's absolutely correct, actually, which is wild to think about, knowing the growth of the Algorand ecosystem to that we still haven't actually had an official IDO on chain. I mean, we've had projects launched using like centralized exchanges or just, the decentralized exchange method where they supply liquidity and just kind of let the Wild West happen. But yeah, this is very interesting. So really, 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 really interesting to see how the IDO pans out between now and the 4th. But sorry to cut you off if you want to give the rest of those websites.
TruYou.io, our main website, an incredible resource to just kind of get the general information about TruYou. We also have a Medium article I'll share the link with here, but it basically gives all the initial IDO information, what the audience we're reaching for, our market value, pretty much explains a general, massive, great overview of the TruYou project so that you can become involved. And then if you want to join us on Twitter, TruYou platform is our main one there, and that's a great way to reach us because I'm on there every single day.
Perfect, and I'll include all those links down in the description below. But before we go, I want to ask, one last question. Has TruYou, saw any, VC funding or grants from the foundation or anything of the sort to seed investment in the project?
Oh, actually, so we have applied for funding through the Algorand Foundation before. Haven't been lucky yet. But again, we were an incredibly new project that had existed less than 6 months. And given the general movements of projects on Algorand, it was almost impossible to judge whether we were actually going to build something and provide a product or not. So I would assume now we're going to have a little better bet. But as for VC funding, I've personally been reached out to at least 5 times in the last week from VCs that are looking at potentially having meetings with us and figuring out what we can do working forward.
Fantastic. Cool. Well, I'll definitely keep my eyes out for that. And as things develop further, I'm happy to have TruYou back on. We'll talk about how the IDO went, maybe talk about the launch of the app as that comes out, and go from there. Zach, this has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to come on my show today.
Yeah, wonderful to be here.
Awesome. Till next time, Zach.